Hello, I'm Rick Schultz from Virtual Dynamics. Welcome back to the Audiophile. This, I think, is probably the most interesting episode that we have ever done, and I hope that you get an opportunity to be able to watch this through and understand what it is that we're really actually doing here. Because what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to build your own Power 3. Now, I can't actually recommend that you do it, but if you do it, I can't stop you from doing it. The reason why I can't recommend that you do this is simply legal issues. However, well, I'm going to show you how we put one together. Now, I'm not going to put it together quite the same way as we do at the shop. I'm not going to make it quite as fancy. We're not going to be putting on the outside jacket. But what I do want to do is I want to try to give you an understanding of what it is that as an audiophile you can expect to receive when you receive a Virtual Dynamics cable. Because the P3 has one of our core technologies in it, which is called dynamic filtering. Now, in the marketing end of things, I have to admit to you that for years, we've been educated as marketers to try to soup things up a little bit, create as many languages and buzzwords as we possibly can to keep you intrigued in our technologies, but not really tell you what it is, because one of the fears that we have as manufacturers is that you'll copy us. I'm no longer afraid that people will copy me. I've been doing this for 7 years. There's a lot of different copies out there, but people just aren't getting it right. So I want to show you, if you're going to copy, how to build one of our power cables, how to actually get it right, and what's really important. So I actually do invite you, if you want to build a Power 3 of your own, please go ahead. Now, I'm not asking you to or not instructing you to, but if you wanted to, these are the steps that we use when we actually assemble a Power 3. What is a Power 3? Well, a Power 3 actually was a device that I built originally to be able to see if mechanical vibrations, as far as in the wire itself that feeds your components in the power cord, if it actually made any difference if you were to use dampening in that particular location. Now, we use all sorts of cups and cones and footers and that sort of stuff underneath CD players and different styles of racks. There's an industry now full of different modifications that actually treat vibration. But for the most part, most people don't understand why vibration is interacting with an audio system and why it causes problems. This is kind of in a beginning. If you applied this technology, you get some real understanding as to why vibration is so important. Now, one of the things that I pose to you is that in building this particular cable, you're applying a science that's different than the cables that you're probably using right now, unless by chance it's a Virtual Dynamics cable. It will be different than what you've got. Remember that price has nothing to do with science. When we discovered gravity for the first time, the discovery was free. Okay? So the discovery behind the Power 3 is very economical. It's something that you can do easily. Most of the parts you can pick up at a local Home Depot or hardware store. Now, the idea behind doing this is when we apply this particular technology, we intend to see if there is any sort of profound result. The result of what we're going to do makes for one of the first cables, in fact, the first cable that I know of, in the entire audio marketplace that actually makes a measurable difference. Is the wire doing that? No. Wires only make small amounts of measurable differences. It's so insignificant for the most part that we'd have to appeal to you. They really don't make an audible difference in an audio system. However, some of the technologies that we can apply to wires can make vast differences. This is one that's made about the biggest difference that we've ever measured or recorded in the history of high-end audio, or for that matter, anything of its type. What am I holding in my hand? Well, this is a piece of J-Flex tubing, and or called Tech-Flex also. And basically what it is it's a nylon reinforced plastic tubing. And we're going to use this as a conduit to be able to hold this material I call dynamic filtering. What is dynamic filtering? Well, in a P3, what it is this stuff right here. And it's a very fine steel shot. You can pick up the steel shot at any sandblasting supply store. Okay, so I'm not trying to sell you this. No, I don't want to start selling dynamic filtering, and no, I won't package it up and I won't ship it to you even if you ask me. There's a product like this out there on the website or on the internet, even in audio, that you can get called micro bearing if you're interested in purchasing some that way, or just go to a sandblasting company and you can work with different types of materials there too. The reason why we're using a steel shot here is because we want something that has a fair amount of density to it. Density is one of the keys behind removing mechanical vibrations, which is what we're going to be doing in this illustration of the Power 3. Now, what I'd like you to do, for experimentation's sake, is I'd like you to build 2 cables, not just one. I want you to, you can also pick up a wire that's much like this at any sort of wire supply store, including hardware stores and probably the Home Depot. Now ours is a little bit different in the fact that this is a cryogenically treated wire, but it's got a THHN rating to it. And if you find one that's got a THHN rating to it, that usually means that it's got a fairly good hard coating on the outside. Now THHN is actually, I believe, a fire rating for a wire. And what we're doing is we look at this. You can see that we've got a ground conductor in green, we've got the neutral conductor in white, and we've got a black for the hot conductor. These particular ones are 14 gauge. You can use any size of gauge size that you want. The bigger normally the better. Okay? The bigger that it is, though, the stiffer the wire is going to become, the more you'll complain about the wire you made, like you do to me all the time. So we're going to take this wire, and for our basic cable, we just want to see what the wire itself actually sounds like. Now, for all intents and purposes, this should sound pretty much like a stock power cord. There shouldn't be a whole lot of difference, because all we're doing is we're just using wire and plastic and just building ourselves a good old-fashioned replica of what they sent along with your audio system. But you'll notice that it does make a bit of difference, because always there's a little bit of audible differences found by a number of reasons, including just the type of wire you use. The hard solid core wire will create a little less harmonic frequencies or vibration internally. Now, as we put this wire through, the thing that we're going to do here, we're just going to put it through the sheathing, and then we're going to put our ends on it. Okay, so I'm going to start actually just by opening this up. Now I've got the wrong screwdriver for that one, so we'll come back to that in a second. We're just going to open up this guy here. So I've loosened off these here. Look at the connectors here. You can see that there's a brass one, there's a silver one, and there's another brass for the ground. Okay, so the ground is located here. This is actually the hot, and the hot is usually located by a brass screw as well on the inside. And there's usually always a silver screw on the neutral side on our American style plugs. Okay, and there's usually green for ground. So they've painted that one green. They've used a nickel plated one over here and a brass one over there. Now, once we've opened that up, the next thing we've got to do is go ahead and connect up here. So in just a second, I'm going to strip our wires and put them in and show you how that's done. Okay, so now I've opened up the shorter end on the other side. When you go to do this, what kind of connector should you use? My opinion is that doesn't matter. Connectors do make us an audible difference, but there's just a slight audible difference in comparison to what you're going to be doing here. Yes, I can change the connector on, and I can hear a difference from connector to connector just slightly, but again, you know, a lot of this stuff as an audiophile, we'll go and we'll spend a lot of money on a new product, and we'll put it into the audio system. And you know, we're hoping to hear this significant change because we've just spent $1,000 or $2,000, and when we plug it into the audio system, we're hoping, wow, you know, this is going to bedazzle us. And you know, for years as an audiophile, I sat there, you know, and you have to cross your fingers and, you know, kind of put your tongue the right way. And if you stare in the right direction, you can kind of hear a little bit of difference. You don't want that as an audiophile. What you want is you want to hear a large audible difference, and this is what we're going to get at here. We want to show you the part that makes the large audible difference. If you look at our core technology products, that's what they're all about, is to get to the heart of the matter and the things that make the biggest difference. Yes, we do stuff above that makes differences as well, but these are the things that make the large measurable differences and the large audible difference. So when you put this in, you should be able to not only clearly hear the difference, but you know, your wife and your kids should be able to clearly hear a difference between the cable stock without the dynamic filtering and then with the dynamic filtering. Now, dynamic filtering is a name that has already been picked up by somebody else that has a cable on the market that looks a lot like our Power 1 and claims to do a lot of the same sort of things. I would have thought maybe they'd think of a new name for it, but that's okay. Anyways, here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking the conductors here. You want to measure them against the end of the plug, okay? So as they go through here, I'm just going to take these guys here and back them off. This is called the cable restraint. And it basically is just going to hold your conductors into the plug. So if you grab on the cable itself to go ahead and unplug it, it won't rip it out. So just going to move that part off. And then you take these little guys here and you loosen them up just enough to be able to get your wire through. Now I'm going to measure, because I want my cable to come down here as far as possible. I'm going to measure where these go into. You just kind of do it by eyeballing it like that. Same thing on the other side. You're just going to kind of eyeball it and make sure that those will come in. Now you can see from there, with the way that those are going in, that this is much too long. We want this plug to sit right down there, so we want cut these connectors off, somewhere around here just before the end of the plug to make them the right length. Do one side first and then the other, okay? So we're going to start here with the male end.